Finding the Calm, Part 2. Late that night, while the rest of the house was wrapped in silence, Mom sat in the soft glow of her laptop. She wasn't looking at work or recipes. She was reading articles about big feelings and how some brains process the world more intensely than others. As she read about sensory overloads and the need for predictability, tears filled her eyes. It wasn't that Timo was being difficult. He was simply overwhelmed. She felt a wave of clarity wash over her. A map was finally forming where there had only been a storm. She tiptoed into Timo's room, where the moonlight painted silver stripes across his bed. Timo was fast asleep, his messy brown hair splayed across the pillow, and his favorite toy car clutched in his hand. Mom sat on the edge of the bed and watched the steady rise and fall of his chest. "I'm so sorry, my brave boy," she whispered so softly it was like a prayer. "I didn't understand, but I do now. We're going to find the calm together." The next morning, the sun sparked a bright yellow through the curtains. Timo was on the rug, carefully parking his cars in a neat line. Usually, Mom would be checking her watch and urging him to hurry, her voice tight with stress. But today, she knelt down on the rug beside him. She didn't say, "Hurry up." Instead, she waited until he finished his row, offering him a warm, patient smile that made the whole room feel brighter. Before they left the house, Mom sat with Timo at the kitchen table. She didn't just tell him they were going to the store. She showed him a colorful picture schedule she had made. It showed a car, a grocery cart, a box of cereal, and finally, home. First the store, then the cereal, then back here to play, she explained gently. Timo studied the pictures, his hazel eyes wide. For the first time, he knew exactly what to expect. The supermarket was usually a place of scary noises and bright lights for Timo, but today was different. He held the picture schedule tightly in one hand and Mom's hand in the other. When the sliding doors whooshed open, he didn't jump. He looked at his paper and checked off the first item. He felt like a team with Mom, and the busy aisles didn't feel quite so loud when he knew what the next step would be. Back at home, it was time to clean. Mom knew the roar of the vacuum was like a lion's growl to Timo's ears. Before she even plugged it in, she knelt down and handed him a pair of thick, blue, noise-reducing headphones. "I'm going to make the loud noise now to keep the house clean," she explained. "These will keep your ears safe and quiet." Timo put them on, feeling the soft cushions hug his head. As the vacuum hummed across the rug, Timo stayed perfectly calm, watching the dust disappear. He even did a little dance, feeling proud of his brave ears. Nearby, his little sister Mia watched with wide eyes. When Mom finally turned the vacuum off, Mia began to clap her small hands together, cheering for her big brother. Mom let out a long breath of relief, her heart feeling lighter than it had in months. Later that afternoon, the clouds outside turned gray, and a heavy rain began to fall. Timo felt a familiar tightness in his chest as the routine of the day shifted. He sat on the sofa, his face crumpling. Dad didn't tell him to stop crying or ask why he was upset. Instead, Dad sat quietly beside him on the floor, resting a hand nearby. "I'm right here, Timo," Dad said softly. "You can tell me how you feel, or we can just sit until the storm passes." At school the next day, the cleanup song began to play. In the past, this was when Timo's world felt like it was ending because he wasn't finished with his art. But today, he took a deep breath, just like Mom had practiced with him. He carefully put his crayons back in the box. His teacher, Mrs. Penna, walked over and gave him a high five. "I am so proud of how you transitioned today, Timo," she said with a twinkle in her eye. When he got home, his older sister Lily was waiting with a big box of building blocks. "Want to build a giant tower, Timo?" she asked. "We can take a quiet break whenever you need one." They sat on the floor, and for the first time, when the tower accidentally toppled over, they didn't fight. They both looked at each other and burst into giggles. Lily was learning to be patient, and Timo was learning that mistakes were just part of the play. At Sunday dinner, the whole family gathered around the big table. Grandma Elara watched as Timo played happily with his cousins in the corner, sharing his cars without any tears. During dessert, Mom leaned toward Grandma and the other relatives. Timo just sees the world a little more brightly than most, she explained with a confident smile. He needs a little extra help to find the calm, and we're all here to be his bridge. At bedtime, after the stories were read and the lights were low, Timo looked up at Mom. "Mama?" he asked in a small, quiet voice. "Was I a bad boy today?" Mom's heart ached as she pulled him into a tight, warm hug. "Oh, Timo, you were never a bad boy," she whispered, kissing the top of his head. "You are a wonderful, brave boy who is learning big things, and I am the luckiest mom in the world to be learning them with you."
If you liked the story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell button to receive every new story.